We did our video on Ben & Jerry's and the company's failure to update organizational structure to match the increasing complexity and size of the organization. To begin, the following video clip is about Ben & Jerry's history, depicting the company's rapid growth as one of the nation's most successful ice cream businesses.
Two friends with a passion for food.
Ben and I were always good eaters.
Who turned a little Vermont ice cream shop.
The lines were out the door from the very beginning.
Into one of the most famous names in the business.
We had this tremendous brand equity.
A company on a mission to mix social activism and business.
Ben & Jerry's proved that you can do it, you can be profitable doing that.
As the scope and complexity of an organization grows, it is imperative for senior management to adjust the organizational structure accordingly. As Ben & Jerry's transitioned from a startup ice cream shop, operating out of a converted gas station, to a multinational industry leader, the growth and development of the organizational structure development lagged behind, resulting in significant turmoil to the organization. Generally speaking, startup companies have a simple structure. This structure is best suited for small firms with low organizational complexity. Typically, the founders of the organization make all of the important decisions and take part in the day-to-day operations. When Ben & Jerry's began, they were without a doubt a simple structure. They were merely two friends who started a local ice cream business located in a small town in Vermont. As the founders, they decided on how things were going to be run and personally played roles in many low-level day-to-day functions. As firms grow and sales increase, they should begin operating under a functional structure. This requires organizing employees into distinct functional areas based on their specific job or area of focus. Employees of the company should also have a clear understanding of which authorities to report to and how their relationships are defined. At Ben & Jerry's, sales were increasing and the company was expanding. However, the company was struggling internally with unclearly defined functional areas and undefined reporting relationships. When an organization introduces different product lines and expands operations into several new geographies, it generally restructures itself into a multi-divisional structure. A multi-divisional structure is defined as consisting of several distinct strategic business units, or SBUs. The SBUs tend to operate independently of one another and are each led by a CEO or equivalent manager. Ben & Jerry's expanded their product line.
And they got chocolate eruption, and they got apple, and they got grape, and super duper chocolate eruption, and
ended up going international in 1987. At the same time, they were opening many new franchise scoop shops and introducing new frozen yogurt and mixed-in flavors. Ben & Jerry's needed to change their structure in order to effectively manage this continued growth. But due to lack of foresight and managerial vision, the co-founders headed an ad hoc mixture of the three types of structures that most similarly represented a simple structure. Ben & Jerry's lacked a defined structure, appropriate for the scope of the organization's business, and this was a huge concern for the future of their company. There were many different reasons why Ben & Jerry's was run the way it was. When Ben & Jerry began their company, their intent was to satisfy a dual bottom line. First, they did not want to become millionaires. Instead, they just wanted to earn a livable wage. Secondly, and more importantly, they wanted to be pioneers of social activism. In terms of gaining a livable wage, they did so simply by the virtue of being the founders of a company that did not go bankrupt. In terms of social activism, there were many activities that Ben & Jerry's got involved in. To start, Ben & Jerry partnered up with small businesses. Rather than producing all of their ingredients in-house, they decided to create strategic alliances. A Native American farming group supplied all of the blueberries for the Wild Maine blueberry flavor. Also, a New York bakery that employed homeless people supplied all of the brownies for the chocolate fudge brownie flavor, and the Rainforest Crunch flavor used nuts from the Brazilian forest from the People's Nut Shelling Cooperative. Aside from working within the community, Ben & Jerry's gave back to the community as well. One of the ways they were able to do so at the extent that they did was by building in a 5-to-1 ratio pay scale. This meant that the highest paid employee was only paid 5 times more than the lowest. This gave Ben & Jerry a bigger opportunity to give back. The most significant way they gave back was through their own foundation called the Ben & Jerry's Foundation. This foundation was financed by a 7.5% pre-tax contribution, the highest level of charitable contribution of any U.S. public company. This foundation was established to fund community projects. Ben & Jerry also agreed to a joint venture in the former Soviet Union. This agreement was designed to foster international cooperation and global understanding while providing a model of small-scale private enterprise. Because an overwhelmingly large majority of future focus was placed on advancing social activism efforts rather than restructuring the business to fit its operational scope, Ben & Jerry's ended up becoming unsustainable in regards to the co-founders' dual bottom line approach. After a failed attempt to right the ship by hiring a new CEO, Ben & Jerry's ended up being bought out by Unilever, who initiated traditional organizational structure to save the business. The story of Ben & Jerry's failure to match the organizational structure with the scope and complexity of their organization is a prime example of the importance of understanding the impact of organizational growth and the importance of planning for it accordingly.